I'm going to start to build the background for this. We'll need to go out to the folder, hitting Command I, we're going to File Import, and we want the sky layer. I'll click on the blue background.jpg and choose Open. Dragging it to the composition window, I'll drag it to give it the length I need, and I'll put it below the rocket. Now the blue sky is a little too dark, so I want to change the value of it. Up at the top under Effects, I'll go to Color Correction, and I'm going to choose Levels. And then the levels, I'll just move the top slider bar with the color waveform until I get something a little lighter. Now we'll introduce the cloud layer. Going to Import, I'll choose Clouds Green Background.jpg, click on Open, and I'll drag it to my comp window. I'll first scale it down, hitting S on the keyboard, and I'm going to drop the scale down to about 10%. Now I need to drop out the green background, and it's a two-part process. I'll first start by going to Effects, Keying, Key Light 1.2. At the very top, to the right of Screen Color, you'll see a black box and an eyedropper. Clicking on the eyedropper, I'll click on the green. Now most of it's gone with the exception of some shadow here. I'll go to Screen Gain, and by increasing that just a little bit, it'll start to drop out some of those dark shadows I may not want. I still have to deal with the white paper sticking out at the top. I'm going to use my layer mask. I'll hit G on the keyboard to get the pen tool, and I'll start to draw around with the Bezier curve to isolate what I want to keep. Opening up the mask features, I'll go to Feather, and I'll put a bit of a feather on that to soften that edit. With my clouds masked and keyed, I'm ready to animate them. And I'm going to put my playback head at 6 seconds, and I'm going to hit N on the keyboard because I don't want to animate anything beyond that. This way, when I go to the final composition with both halves of this animation, I can speed this up so that it's 50% faster than it is now. And it'll be a good speed based on what I've made the rocket and the speed that the clouds will be going. So I'm going to animate the first set of clouds between 1 and 2 seconds. I'll put the playback head at the beginning of the timeline. Hitting P for position, I'll put my first keyframe in, and I'll put the cloud layer just outside the top edge of my composition. I'll now move to 2 seconds, and I'll drag my cloud layer down just outside the bottom edge of the composition. So if I drag through my timeline, this is what I have. As the clouds roll down, it appears the rocket is moving up. I'm going to snap my playback head to second number 2, and with the clip selected, I'm going to edit it, holding the Option key and hitting the close bracket. Now I need to have a number of copies to go from second 1 to second 6. I'll drag my playback head a little bit back towards the beginning of the timeline, and I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate that layer. Now I'll drag it, lining it up where I'd like the second set of clouds to be. And I'm going to do this by duplicating and moving it in this stairway fashion until I get to 6 seconds. I'll hit Command D again. I'll start to drag forward. Then I'll move the newly generated one up ahead of that one until the clouds line up the way I'd like them to. I'll drag through. When I see that third set of clouds kind of falling off and there's a gap up here, I'll hit Command D. And with that new layer, I'll drag it forward and line it up the way I want. And I'm going to do that all the way over to the 6 second mark. And if I drag through my timeline now, I've got a number of clouds consecutively following each other. Now there are no clouds at the beginning, so I'm going to duplicate that layer again, and I'm going to drag the one at the beginning into the timeline behind the layers. And now I'm going to put one more in, hitting Command D, and I'll drag that into the invisible area behind the layers as well. So what that means is now I have clouds on screen. When I make my jump cut from here, from the drawing board sequence into the rocket sequence, now I need to have the rocket above all of this. So I'll select the rocket layer, and I'll drag it up inside the layer window of the timeline. If I wanted to, I could hold the Command key and hit the close bracket until the rocket was above all of the cloud layers. I'll hit Command S to save.